Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is W0rId 0rder of W0rId, and in this video, we will be doing a deep dive into American foreign policy, geopolitical issues surrounding, of course, China, with a lot of very important, interesting news, like some scholars and officials from China calling for two-husband households, the Chinese president saying that he will lead the world towards a new world order, as well as other important news surrounding the U.S. economy, India, and a lot more that, of course, will have a lot of important implications on you. And before we get into all of that, this video, plus all the videos that come almost every single day, are sponsored in main part because of you and your gracious, incredible, amazing support. If it wasn't for you guys donating on WeAreChange.org/donate in the many different ways that you can, I wouldn't be here. I'm only here because of you. And whether if it's from physical mail, cryptocurrencies, PayPal, or even ways without spending a dime, you supporting us is more important than ever, and sincerely, thank you so much for doing that. Now, here in the United States, there actually have been some arguments that the U.S. government is heading down the path to, of course, becoming the Chinese totalitarian government, and a lot of people have been raising bells about a lot of important draconian measures that are being proposed, like in Congress right now, that would end all encryption, all privacy on the internet. Recently, there was a Reaper Predator drone used to surveil protesters in the United States domestically, something that I've been warning about for many years now. And while important civil liberties and aspects of our freedoms that make us so different from the rest of the world are being eviscerated right in front of us, is there a conversation or a major demonstration against that? No. But what we're seeing is what some people are comparing to a cultural revolution, where many top globalist corporations that are supporting the major protest movement right now are destroying movies and other forms of entertainment for showing an accurate depiction of history. And we are seeing the promotion of this new cult of wokeness that, face value intellectually, is very incoherent. In my opinion, it is meant to confuse you. It is meant to put you in a fear state, so you don't know what is going on, as of course a big major movement is vying to use the mob of people for their own personal benefit. All, of course, while anyone slightly deviating from the ever-changing, intellectually dishonest whims of the controlled mob, you dare stand in any way, not just in front of it, but even on the sidelines of it, well, just like this UCLA college professor and many others before him, you will be taken down and replaced. All of this that, according to some, would make Mao Zedong smile. And if there ever was a time to study and look into the Chinese, quote, cultural revolution, it would definitely be now. Now, as we do that, it's also very important to also look inward and also state the fact that if similar protests were happening that are happening right now in the United States in countries like Venezuela or Iran, the United States would be threatening to invade it to save it for itself. And that is actually the same kind of similar position that China is holding right now, as they are leveraging these protests and even invoking international law, criticizing, of course, how the United States is handling these protests, criticizing the use of less lethal munitions, tear gas, rubber bullets, and others, even holding a press conference by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs where he said Black Lives Matter and that America is chronically sick with racism. Yes. Now, after, of course, making these grand statements on the international stage, the Chinese government is also putting more pressure on Hong Kong, making more arrests. A protest, of course, which the United States also fully supports and is behind. And when you have the Chinese government and American government talking about human rights and international law and blah, 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 you gotta understand, they don't give a damn about any of those things, since, of course, no lives matter to the government. It's all about PR, it's all about posturing, it's all about power. You are not special here at all, since the state only cares about one thing, and that is maintaining and growing its power and influence over people. And they do that in many ways, including propaganda, which the Chinese government is stepping up their efforts in supplying media news, quote, quote, news organizations in the United States with tens of millions of dollars, which of course buys them a lot of influence, which you could clearly see in the lack of coverage against China and a big focus on, of course, Russia. It's not also the news that the Chinese government officially affects here in the United States, it's also Hollywood that always caves and caters to every whim, to every wish of the Chinese government state, censoring and editing out anything the Chinese government state does not want, including portrayals of African Americans and people being gay, since of course that is something that the Chinese government does not want promoted. And if you look at actual racism and bigotry, if you look at what's been happening with Africans in China, holy cow, do you have an argument for Black Lives Matter. But of course, you don't hear about any of the real-life discrimination that happens against gays and blacks in China at all. Or if you do, it's very little. And one of the reasons this is happening is because the Chinese government wants a homogeneous population that breeds many children from them, since of course they are in major trouble with the decline of their empire, as of course population there flatlines from the globalist, eugenicist, population control enthusiast that pushed China towards a one-child policy. A one-child policy that was extremely inhumane, brutal, that saw millions of babies and children that were girls exterminated in favor, of course, of a male child, which is culturally someone that takes care of the family unit. And now there are so many males in China and so few women, there are even scholars and Chinese officials that are advocating for the possibility of women having two husbands. Since, of course, their population decline is so extreme, they tried tax breaks, they tried housing subsidies, they even built a database of all fertile women in Beijing. And the top-down central controllers are facing such a monstrous population problem that they even went out of their ways to make it more difficult to get a divorce, to get an abortion, and now may possibly implement new rules and regulations allowing women to have more than just one husband. This, of course, on the heels of massive economic uncertainty from, of course, the huge wave of disinformation that came from the Chinese state with their handling of the global sickness that was going around a few weeks ago that now a lot of mainstream media types and politicians have completely disregarded because of their cultural revolution that they're pushing on all of us. But this espionage, this disinformation has definitely besmirched the reputation of China. They know it. There was even American citizens that were a part of selling secrets to the Chinese. Many professors, including just recently, a top Harvard professor that was charged with lying to the feds about the money he was getting from China. So why was this department chair of chemistry and chemical biology of Harvard University hiding his involvement with the Chinese government? Well, it's because there, of course, is massive Chinese espionage of the United States. There has been a lot of economic ramifications from the Chinese disinformation, which is plunging the world into a recession and also pushing us for a messy economic divorce between China and the United States. Since, of course, the United States very idiotically depends on China, its chief geopolitical foe, on most of its medical supplies. Also something brought to you by, of course, Henry Kissinger, that was the major person that de-industrialized the United States, got rid of manufacturing jobs, and replaced them with, of course, Chinese-made slave factories that benefited the multinational corporations. You know, the same multinational corporations that are now pushing this culture war on you. Do you see the correlation here? Do you see what's going on here? And now the Chinese government is officially responding after this massive conflict, after this massive espionage, after this massive problem that they are partly responsible for causing the world, saying that they are vowing to lead the world into the new world order. Yes, Those are the words of the Chinese President Xi Jinping that is talking about now, quote, safeguarding international security, as they're also promoting the Cultural Revolution. Yes, the Chinese government is officially proponent and pushing the Black Lives Matter movement. And as a decoupling happens between the United States and China economically, boy, oh boy, will there be some massive fireworks, since of course you usually have a trade war, a currency war, and then usually a hot war that happens all throughout history that looks like we're on the same trajectory for, with China also establishing the same kind of insidious trap that everyone should look out for. But will China lead the world in the New World Order? Well, geopolitically, they are positioned not in a good place. This is why they're building military installations in the South Chinese Sea. But when it comes to resources and their physical positioning in the world, things don't look that promising to them. Also, there's another problem emerging with India, their neighbor, over, of course, disputed territory that China is claiming is theirs. India is also laying claim to it, saying that they will not give China an inch of this land that is very important for China to expand. Because of that, there has been a massive military buildup on the Chinese-Indian border, which signals a lot of very significant problems ahead, since, of course, these two major countries that are also growing with industrialization, India also specifically with population, and China's bigger geopolitical aspirations. This signals some big trouble ahead, as thousands of troops are being deployed and even war games on the border, practicing the invasion and attack of India, while also at the same time deploying 2 aircraft carriers after recently doing war games practicing the physical invasion of Taiwan. So yeah, as heated as the geopolitical relations are between China and the United States, as there is still clear censorship by some news organizations in Hollywood and major sport industries in the United States bowing down for them for their money, this to me is an important issue that deserves a lot more of a conversation about. We need to understand what's happening in China, especially with how crazy and unpredictable 2020 is unfolding as, and it's still astonishing that again, there isn't a major conversation about them, but there is a fervor if even Russia just accidentally even farts geopolitically. Again, it's all absolutely crazy. If you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. It's more important than ever, since of course YouTube really doesn't like us. But regardless of that, we're here to tell you about the things that actually matter. To me, this matters. If it matters to you, share it. If you thought I was wrong, let me know why in the comment section below, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And this is why. Love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeRidChange.org.